Hello, my dearest listeners. Welcome back. Today we are coming back to the world of mythology, and today's story is about a giant. A giant so enormous that entire armies looked like ants beside him. A giant who could eat enough food to feed a kingdom. A giant who made one tiny mistake while speaking and spent most of his life asleep because of it. Any guesses? Yeah, this is the story of Kumbhakarna, one of the most fascinating and misunderstood characters in the Ramayana. Kumbhakarna was the younger brother of Ravana, the mighty king of Lanka. Now, unlike Ravana, who wanted power, control, and conquest, Kumbhakarna was actually much simpler. He loved food, a lot of food. In fact, legends say his appetite was so massive that entire storehouses could be emptied in a single meal. But despite his size and hunger, Kumbhakarna was also incredibly intelligent and powerful. One day he joined his brothers Ravana and Vibhishana in performing severe penance to please Lord Brahma. For thousands of years they meditated, and finally Brahma appeared. "Ask for a boon," Brahma said. Kumbhakarna knew exactly what he wanted. He wanted Indrasana, the throne of Indra, king of the gods. The gods immediately panicked. A giant with unlimited power? That sounded like a disaster waiting to happen. So they approached goddess Saraswati, the goddess of speech, and begged for help. As Kumbhakarna opened his mouth to ask for Indrasana, Saraswati gently altered his words. And instead of saying Indrasana, he accidentally asked for Nidrasana, a bed for sleep. Brahma smiled. Tathastu, so be it. The moment the words left his mouth, the boon took effect. Kumbhakarna would sleep for 6 months at a stretch, wake up for just one day, eat, and then fall asleep again. Imagine spending your life waiting 6 months just to have breakfast. Years passed, and eventually the great war of the Ramayana began. Lord Rama and the Vanara army had reached Lanka. One by one, Ravana's greatest warriors were falling. The situation was becoming desperate. There was only one warrior left who might change the course of the war, Kumbhakarna. Unfortunately, he was asleep, very asleep. What happened next is probably one of the funniest scenes in mythology. Thousands of demons gathered around the sleeping giant. They blew conch shells, nothing happened. They beat giant war drums, nothing happened. They shouted into his ears, nothing happened. They even marched elephants across his body, still nothing. Kumbhakarna simply kept snoring. Finally, someone had a brilliant idea. Food. Mountains of roasted meat, huge pots of food, lakes of wine. Everything was piled right under his nose, and suddenly his nostrils twitched, his eyes opened, and the giant woke up. Success! After eating enough food to frighten several villages, Kumbhakarna finally asked what was happening. Ravana explained everything. Rama had arrived. The war was being lost. Lanka was in danger. Kumbhakarna listened quietly, and then he said something remarkable. He looked directly at Ravana and said, "Brother, this is your fault. You kidnapped another man's wife. You ignored good advice. You brought this disaster upon yourself." Imagine being Ravana and hearing that from your own brother. For a moment, Ravana was furious. But then Kumbhakarna said something that reveals who he really was. He said, "I know you are wrong, but you are still my brother, and I will not abandon you when death stands at your door." It's one of the most tragic moments in the Ramayana, because Kumbhakarna knew exactly how the story would end. He knew Ravana had made a terrible mistake. He knew victory was impossible, and yet he chose loyalty. I love these people, man, who choose loyalty, really. Says a lot about them, right? Anyway, coming back to the story. Then the giant marched onto the battlefield. The earth trembled beneath his feet. The Vanara army scattered in every direction. He seemed unstoppable. Even the bravest warriors struggled to stand before him. For a while, it looked as though an entire army was fighting a moving mountain. But eventually, Lord Rama himself stepped forward. The battle that followed was fierce. Arrow after arrow struck the giant. Yet Kumbhakarna continued fighting, even wounded, exhausted. He even knew that the end was near. Finally, Rama released a divine arrow, and the mighty giant fell. His enormous body crashed to the earth. The battle was over. And that's why Kumbhakarna remains such a fascinating character. He wasn't evil like many imagine. He was a giant trapped by fate, a warrior who knew right from wrong, a brother who chose loyalty even when it would cost him everything, and perhaps most famously, a man whose entire destiny changed because of one tiny mistake while asking for a boon. Sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about heroes who win. They're about good people caught in impossible situations. And Kumbhakarna's story is exactly that. I hope you all enjoyed today's podcast. Until we meet next time, next week, this is your story angel D signing off. Oh, stay curious and stay kind. Take care and keep the stories alive. Bye-bye.